25 years after Aaliyah's death, the truth has finally been revealed, and it's truly shocking. What if the tragic plane crash that killed the princess of R&B wasn't just a devastating accident, but the fatal consequence of an industry that refused to let her escape? At just 22 years old, Aaliyah was a global superstar. But behind her angelic voice was a heavily guarded nightmare of exploitation, an illegal marriage at age 15, and chilling premonitions of her own death. Minutes before her fatal flight, she pleaded not to board, yet a mysterious stranger forged her signature on the deadly flight clearance. Today we are exposing the dark, terrifying secrets the music industry tried to burn in that wreckage. Before we uncover the truth, hit subscribe, leave a comment below to welcome back Melanin Spotlight and brace yourself for the heartbreak. 25 years after Aaliyah's death, the truth has finally been revealed, and it's truly shocking. If the modern music industry were forced to name one single star whose premature departure left an unfillable, agonizing void, the answer would undeniably be Aaliyah. Hailed universally as the princess of R&B, a visionary fashion icon, and the very soul of a groundbreaking new wave of black music at the dawn of the 21st century, she was a generational talent. At just 22 years old, she seemingly had the world at her feet, unimaginable fame, a skyrocketing Hollywood career, and a deeply guarded, profound love. Yet in a single catastrophic moment, she vanished forever in a blazing plane crash that even a quarter of a century later remains heavily shrouded in dark, unanswered questions. Behind the angelic voice and the enigmatic, beautiful eyes lay a harrowing reality of stolen youth industry exploitation and terrifying premonitions. Today, we are uncovering the chilling, heavily buried secrets that the entertainment machine desperately tried to take to the grave. The weight of a child prodigy. Do not let Aaliyah's soft, soothing vibrato and crystal-clear gaze deceive you. The R&B princess was not raised in a carefree world of sweet, innocent melodies. She was forged in a crucible of intense discipline, crushing pressure, and immense adult expectations. Born Aaliyah Dana Houghton on January 16, 1979, in Brooklyn, New York, she was the youngest child in a hard-working blue-collar family, where music was the absolute lifeblood of their home. Her father toiled in a warehouse, while her mother, an elementary school teacher, who had once harbored her own unfulfilled dreams of stage stardom, recognized her daughter's divine gift almost instantly. When Aaliyah was just 4 years old, her mother froze in the kitchen, tears streaming down her face as she listened to her daughter hum. It wasn't just the pitch. Aaliyah possessed an uncanny ability to tell profound emotional stories through music long before she understood the world. In 1984, the family relocated to Detroit, Michigan, where a 5-year-old Aaliyah began intensely honing her craft in local church choirs. From a heartbreakingly young age, she was instilled with a relentless mantra: opportunities are fleeting, and every performance must be flawless, lest someone else take your place. While other children were afforded the luxury of playing with toys, Aaliyah was meticulously tying her hair back, donning performance dresses, and preparing for local showcases. Her first major turning point arrived at age 10 on the national stage of Star Search. Though she didn't take home the crown, fate had already set a grander stage. Her aunt, the legendary soul singer Gladys Knight, invited the young girl to tag along on a Las Vegas tour. What started as a backstage observation turned into magic when Gladys overheard her niece singing along with the orchestra. The very next night, Aaliyah stood in the spotlight. Singing My Funny Valentine in a simple black dress, she commanded the room into absolute stunned silence. An elderly musician backstage noted a chilling truth that would define her career. That girl isn't a child singer. She has the soul of someone who's lived through deep pain. Despite her rising fame as Detroit's child star, She remained remarkably grounded, enrolling in the Detroit School for the Fine and Performing Arts and graduating in 1997 with a flawless 4.0 GPA. Yet her friends noticed a quiet melancholy. She would sit for hours writing in a secret notebook, once telling a teacher she was simply thinking about how to make people love me and still leave me alone. The contract and the predator. The transition from a gifted child to an industry commodity happened with terrifying speed. On a spring day in 1991, a 12-year-old Aaliyah walked into the towering New York offices of Jive Records, guided by her uncle Barry Hankerson. Hankerson firmly believed his niece was the golden ticket to revolutionizing the young black music market. In just 5 minutes, executives offered her a recording contract. She signed her name entirely unaware that she was surrendering the trajectory of her own life. Transferred to Blackground Records, a label founded by her uncle, she was soon flown to a Chicago studio in 1992 to collaborate with the man who would become the darkest shadow of her existence, R. Kelly. At the time, Kelly wielded absolute unchecked power in the industry. No one in that cold studio room warned the young girl of the sinister intentions lurking behind the mixing boards. The recording sessions for her debut album were grueling and deeply disturbing. For months, the 14-year-old was driven to a South Side Chicago studio early in the morning and kept under the strict, isolating supervision of Kelly's team until late at night. The emotional toll was visible but ignored. A studio staff member chillingly recalled a moment when Aaliyah abruptly stopped singing, took off her headphones, and retreated to a break room. When checked on, she was found curled in a fetal position, clutching a pillow with blank, traumatized eyes, as if she had just endured unspeakable horrors. In May 1994, Age Ain't Nothing But a Number was unleashed upon the world, instantly transforming the 15-year-old into a global phenomenon. But beneath the catchy beats lay a deeply disturbing reality. Why was a young girl being forced to sing lyrics about profound betrayal and dying for love? The secret marriage and the silent scream. The horrifying answer to her melancholic music was exposed with a piece of paper. On August 31st, 1994, inside a small conference room at a Sheraton Hotel in Rosemont, Illinois, a marriage certificate was quietly and illegally forged. It falsely claimed that Aaliyah was 18 years old, legally binding the 15-year-old child to the 27-year-old R. Kelly. There was no romance, no family blessings, and no white dress. Only Kelly's manager, acting as a witness, and a bribed local official. When Vibe magazine blew the whistle later that year, the music industry was thrown into absolute chaos. Aaliyah's family frantically intervened successfully, annulling the marriage, with her mother publicly stating that the teenager had no comprehension of what she had been dragged into. But the psychological damage was permanently inflicted. Aaliyah chose a path of absolute self-imposed silence. "I don't talk about the past. I want to focus on music," she told the probing press. Public opinion cruelly split, but studio insiders knew the heartbreaking truth. They had witnessed a terrified girl who avoided Kelly's gaze and trembled while holding a glass of water in the hallways. Following the 1995 annulment, she completely severed ties with Kelly, revamping her image and musical direction. However, the radiant smile of her childhood was gone. She became a master of deflection in interviews, often countering invasive questions with, "How do you want me to answer that?" Her only solace was a small black notebook she filled with late-night thoughts, explaining to a friend that she wrote things down to remember, because she would never be allowed to speak them aloud. Since the age of 12, every breath outfit and public appearance had been heavily dictated by executives. Denied the right to speak her truth, she poured her silent screams into her music, turning her songs into hidden, agonizing cries for help. Premonitions in a golden cage. As the new millennium dawned, Aaliyah was an untouchable superstar. Yet her immense fame was nothing more than a beautifully gilded cage. The people surrounding her were not genuine friends, but image consultants, managers, and handlers. During a 2001 magazine cover shoot, she accidentally dropped a grueling schedule extending through 2002. When a stylist remarked on her non-stop work ethic, Aaliyah bleakly replied, "This schedule isn't mine. It just has my name on it." In early 2000, desperately seeking an escape, she retreated to a minimalist 14th floor beachfront apartment in Miami. But peace evaded her. The silence of the ocean was replaced by terrifying, recurring night terrors. She would wake up drenched in cold sweat, hyperventilating. She confessed to a close friend that she dreamt she was endlessly falling through the air, completely untethered, overcome with a chilling sensation that she no longer belonged in this world. These premonitions escalated. During a casual dinner, the 21-year-old calmly looked at her friend and stated, "If something happens to me, don't be sad. I have no regrets." She began recording cryptic personal audio diaries on a pocket cassette player, speaking softly of a profound desire to just disappear peacefully. While sitting in a makeup chair in New York, she hauntingly asked her artist, "Do you believe some people are born to leave sooner than others?" A glimpse of true love. Amidst the suffocating control of her career, Aaliyah found a single beautiful sanctuary in hip-hop mogul Damon Dash. They met briefly in 2000 at a Manhattan fashion party. Breaking her usual reserved nature, she sent the Rockefeller co-founder a handwritten note. "I'm not good at starting conversations, but if you're free, I'd love to meet again." Their romance was fiercely guarded. Dash loved her with a purity she had never experienced in the entertainment industry. He didn't demand album updates or drag her onto red carpets for publicity. Instead, he offered morning phone calls, sent flowers to her sets, and provided a space where she didn't have to act invincible. "When I'm with him, I don't have to act strong. I'm allowed to be silent without explanation," she once confessed. By the spring of 2001, Dash was secretly preparing for a future together, commissioning a custom engagement ring engraved with the words, "You are enough," planning to propose on her upcoming birthday. But her deep-seated fears always lingered. In a diary found after her death, she wrote of her love for him, but expressed a paralyzing fear that if she dared to love like a normal person, a shadowy force would seek revenge. The final masterpiece and the fatal flight. In July 2001, Aaliyah released her third self-titled album. Stripped of nicknames and gimmicks, it felt remarkably like a musical will. The tracks were heavy with themes of departure distance and foreboding urgency. Behind closed doors, unreleased demos were even darker. One track labeled Demo H number 7 featured Aaliyah repeating a single heartbreaking line over a lo-fi beat. "Can I go home now?" A month later, she traveled to the Bahamas to shoot the music video for Rock the Boat. Despite her warmth toward the crew director, Hype Williams noticed an unsettling detachment. She would stare unblinking into the distance, as if waiting for an invisible signal. On August 25, 2001, the shoot wrapped early. Exhausted and feeling a heavy lead-like intuition, Aaliyah desperately wanted to delay her flight back to the U.S. until the next morning. However, her handlers pressured her about looming press conferences and contract signings. Stripped of her autonomy, she yielded. She was so drained that she took a sleeping pill and had to be physically assisted onto the private Cessna 4002B. The aircraft was dangerously overloaded by nearly 320 kilograms of equipment and luggage. When the pilot raised alarms about the weight, a mysterious, unidentified man stepped forward and forged a signature of clearance on Aaliyah's behalf. Before boarding, she made a brief, chilling phone call home, ending with the words, "I don't feel okay, but they say it's fine." At 6:50 p.m., the overloaded plane took off. Just 60 seconds later, it violently plunged into a palm grove, erupting into flames and killing all 8 people on board, including the 22-year-old icon. The ashes of truth. When rescuers reached the smoldering wreckage, they found Aaliyah's body near the emergency exit, her eyes peacefully closed as if she were merely sleeping. Beside her lay a partially scorched suitcase. Inside was a brown leather journal and a half-burnt handwritten letter. The visible lines read, "I'm tired of smiling too much. I'm tired of living by someone else's plan. I don't know what freedom is, but lately I feel like I need it. Maybe one day I'll live like a normal person. Speak without asking permission, love someone without hiding." This letter was conspicuously omitted from official reports, only revealed years later by a forensics insider. The mysteries only deepened. The plane's black box was allegedly completely destroyed, though local witnesses claimed to have seen authorities carry it away entirely intact. Her fiercely protective family clamped down on the media forbidding cameras at her funeral and refusing to commercialize her haunting, unreleased diary-like recordings. When Damon Dash finally broke his silence years later, a broken man who had retreated from the world, he spoke of their final trivial argument before she left for the Bahamas. She had promised to tell him everything upon her return. Looking directly into the camera, Dash acknowledged the dark web surrounding her life. "I know there are secrets Aaliyah never dared to speak, and I respect that. Aaliyah's death was not merely a mechanical failure. It was the tragic climax of a life heavily dictated by an exploitative industry. She was silenced in life, and ultimately silenced in death." When fans watch the final scenes of the Rock the Boat video, they no longer see a pop star performing. They see a weary soul looking directly into the lens, silently saying goodbye before turning toward the eternal peace of the sea. Aaliyah's heartbreaking departure leaves us with chilling unresolved questions that refuse to fade even 25 years later. The mysteriously missing black box, the forged flight clearance by an unknown man, and her haunting unreleased audio diaries all point to a narrative much darker than a simple aviation failure. Do you believe this was merely a tragic, negligent accident? Or was there a far more sinister force at play, permanently silencing a young woman who was finally ready to break free from her golden cage? Furthermore, does the entertainment industry owe her legacy the absolute truth? Or are some secrets simply too dangerous to uncover? Drop your most honest theories in the comments below. Hit subscribe to Melanin Spotlight and join our community.